This is the Mudita Pure. I've been waiting for this device for 2.5 years, and I'm really excited to review it, to give you my honest thoughts and feedback on this device and whether you should purchase it. This device is not even mine. It's Max Crawford's. He graciously gave me his phone so that I could review it and showcase it to all of you. I've been doing live streams for the past couple of weeks, explaining everything in very much detail, and this is my condensed review. So let's talk about the hardware, the software, and whether this device is for you. When it comes to the hardware of the device, I'm really impressed. The device does cost $180. Transparently, that's what Mudita says, and I do believe them. The device feels premium. The buttons are clicky. The side buttons are very well made. It does have a toggle that allows you to put it in connected mode, do not disturb, and also offline mode, which you can still get to text messages in there. But we'll talk about that on the software side. It does also have USB-C and a 3.5mm headphone jack. It does have a speaker, which is a little bit on the tiny end when it comes to sound. We'll talk about that. Maybe they can fix it on the software end. But from a hardware perspective, the speaker, both the earpiece and also the speaker at the bottom, they are below adequate. It's not great. It's not super bad. It's kind of in the middle, but it's below average. Now, besides that, everything else about the phone feels premium. It's a very good design. It feels good in the hand, and the responsiveness is very good. But hardware is only half of the story. Software is also important. So let's take a look at that, because that's its main problem. The software of the Mudita is undercooked. That's the best word that I can come up with, because it does have a lot of features, and some of them work very well, but others are just terrible implementation. Let me give you a couple of examples. It does have a calendar, but you cannot put events. Undercooked. It does have notes, which you can type, but the input method is a little cumbersome. It doesn't have predictive text, even though Mudita says that they will bring this very soon and might as well be released by the time that I'm publishing this review. On top of that, when you're inputting notes, you have to really select. There is no auto capitalization. You have to go back and forth between ABC capital and ABC lowercase and maybe numbers. It does not have enough symbols allowed on the keyboard. And this is just a personal caveat and a personal preference. The backspace key is on the pound key. It's not super intuitive. So again, undercooked. If you go into SMS, you're able to send one-to-one text messages, but no group text messages, nor you're able to receive any kind of images. Any kind of image that you receive will be formatted in a very gibberish format. And if you use Verizon, you're able to send text messages, but you're not able to receive them. And if you send them, even then, they get sent in a gibberish format. You get a bunch of 0, 1s, and a couple of extra numbers for just saying hi or hello. On top of that, AT&T does not work for phone calls, only text messages. T-Mobile is the only carrier that I can certify that works stateside. So if you're looking for the Mudita Pure and you need Verizon because you live in a rural area, or you need AT&T for whatever reason because it's a carrier that you prefer for the price, then do not get the Mudita Pure because it's not going to work very well. And since they don't have the certifications, it's going to be a game of try out multiple times. Now, let's say that you have, again, T-Mobile. Even for the SMS experience, it's undercooked. You're not able to receive text messages on groups, only one-to-one. And even those that you send one-to-one, sometimes you have issues sending them or receiving them. Again, it's good at isolating you, not at disconnecting you. And that's my conclusion for this device as of March 2022. Now let's continue with a couple of things on the software to continue my point that it is a little bit undercooked. When it comes to the music player, you can either play music or do other things on the phone. You cannot play music and compose a text messages. You cannot play music or make a note. You have to play music and stay there all the time. Again, undercooked. The good thing is that it does have a couple of things that do work very well. So for example, it does have a setting that allows you to be connected, do not disturb, still allow phone calls from family members and favorite contacts, or the unconnected or offline mode, which allows you to still receive text messages in different intervals of 15 to 60 minutes. That one works very well, but overall, it's undercooked. Now, if you're somebody that likes to wait for software updates, that wants to see the project flourish, then this may be a good investment. But if you're someone that needs this phone to work on day one, or even day one with a couple of workarounds like on Punked or KaiOS or Light Phone, then this is not the device yet. It does not even, with workarounds, work reliably well. One thing that the software doesn't even do great is battery life. Battery life is good, don't get me wrong. It's 2 to 3 days on regular use, and on heavy use, 1 to 2 days. That's very good. But for a basic operating system like this one, I was expecting just a little bit more. 5 days at the very least. That's what the expectation was from the materials released from Mudita. I don't blame them on that. There's still a lot of optimizations that they can do with battery life, and I'm satisfied with the battery life. It does 2 to 3 days with relative ease, with no problems, and it does work well. Now, let me continue with a couple of extra software things, which, again, it feels undercooked. The speaker is a little tiny. I think that's partly a problem on the hardware side of things, but also on the software. I think they can increase the volume just a little bit in order to make it decent. When I tried with different phones, the Mudita always came last. KaiOS, Light Phone, Punkt, whatever device it was, it's a very tiny speaker, both on the earpiece and also on the loudspeaker. So again, it's a little bit undercooked. Another thing that's undercooked is no dual SIM. Yes, the phone is technically capable of putting 2 SIM cards, but you cannot use them at the same time. You have to be switching back and forth between 2 SIM cards. And the problem of doing that is that you are not able to, number one, use them simultaneously, but number two, it may bring an error between when you're switching. The modem allows for dual SIM cards technically, even though you cannot use them at the same time, and when you're switching, sometimes the phone has difficulty recognizing the network and it may crash. This happened to me a couple times. I put 2 T-Mobile SIM cards and it did have issues sometimes and it crashed and it rebooted and then it was fine. But that's just the experience that you don't want when you're paying $369. Now, I do think that these issues will get resolved, but the question is, are you willing to wait? I personally was willing to wait when I got my iPhone 2. They said that they were going to release podcasts and music and directions, and they did. 2 years it's been, and they have all of those features. They released them progressively throughout that timeline. And even though there's still a couple of issues here and there with the Light Phone, I'm still willing to wait because of the benefits that it provides for me. And that's the question that you kind of need to have when approaching the Mudita Pure. Are you willing to wait for all these fixes? Because the device does feel good in the hand. But again, are you willing to wait? My last point is going to be about call quality, because phone calls are very important for a phone. Again, that's why you got this phone, the promise of great phone call quality and a great experience overall. The great experience is not there yet. So is the phone call quality there? No. It does have a lot of variables, but this is what I've been able to test. If you're outside, you will get a little bit of interference sometimes. People will not be able to hear you very well. They sound like they're in a box. Again, this is if you're outside. If you're inside, they may sound very clear. And again, the loudspeaker is a little tiny, but you're able to get through your phone call. The best implementation that I've been able to find with phone call quality is if you're using headphones, either outside or inside, and they're using headphones. That way, everybody gets to hear whatever it's happening in the phone call and not have any issues. That's the only time that I was able to say great call quality, 4.5 out of 5, if they use headphones and they were in a not loud environment and I was using headphones and also not in a super loud environment, either inside or outside. But if you have a loud environment, if you're walking in the park and you have a lot of cars, or if you're in your car making sure that you have some connectivity, or you're trying to make a phone call while driving, which you shouldn't text and drive, you should always use your Bluetooth, it's going to be a little bit of a pain. I do hope that they are able to fix some of it on the software side, but it will not be completely fixed because this is a problem with the antenna. I'm not able to do magnificent tests and technical tests on the antenna but I do believe that whatever modification they did in order to have the low SAR, the low value of radiation, which you can have your own opinions about that, does compromise a little bit of the phone call quality for this device. And that's where we come to my conclusion. So this is my conclusion for the Mudita Pure. If you want a device that completely isolates you, it has access to text messages one-to-one, no group text, no images, so you're not going to be able to receive anything from family or friends. If you just want phone calls that work, most of the time, they do work, but you're going to have to adjust some of your patterns of behavior, bring headphones all the time, or maybe, hey, I'll call you back when I'm in a quieter space or I'm indoors. Then yes, get this device. It's great at isolating that component, but it's not great at connecting you with other people because the world is not going to stop sending you images or links. The world is not going to stop calling you and expecting at least some decent amount of call quality. The world moves with the news and directions and everything that's smart. And there are devices out there for that. Smartphones or middle of the ground devices like iOS devices. So those may be an alternative for you. If you want a device that isolates you completely, I think the Mudita Pure does it perfectly because it doesn't have access to anything smart. No podcasts unless you load them manually. No ability to get great phone call quality, so you're not going to be able to having a lot of talks or at least satisfying. And text messages, well, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. And if you're willing to wait for the undercooking to be fully cooked, which I really think that is going to happen, then yeah, go invest $369. But if you want something that connects you more and that is more intuitive, there's better alternatives out there. That's why I personally got into this space, because I wanted to disconnect from the hubris of the internet, but I still wanted to remain connected. That's why I bought into the light phone, for example, because I said, well, podcasts connect me with the world, with the news and everything that I want to stay updated in. I'm going to get call quality with the carrier, whichever carrier I want. And, I'm still able to connect via text message, group text message, get my images and my links on my email. So that's what I did. And that's what has been working for me. Now, that may not be working for you. And there's a lot of people that say the light phone doesn't work for me. I'm not trying to push the light phone. That's just what I use. There's iOS. There's Nokia Thread X. There are even some older phones that still work, like the Blackberries. So it just depends on what is your goal. If you want to be completely isolated, as of March 2022, the Mudita Pure does an excellent job. But if you want to be connected, even remotely, with some of the basic things like directions or podcasts or just the news or looking up something real quick without being super addicted because of a large screen, just look elsewhere. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this review enlightens you and gives you a perspective of what the Mudita Pure can do and cannot do. And remember, I'm going to continue updating on the journey of this device. I'm going to keep it whenever they send me mine. I'm going to keep the device. I'm going to continue making videos so you can see the journey. Maybe March 2022 is not the time to buy it. Maybe it is December 2022, and that's okay. I think the company is going to listen to the feedback and going to move forward. So thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.